Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And today we're looking at a book test style routine that came out a bit ago. I've had on my radar for quite some time but never got to purchase it, but I did now, and that is Definitive by Rawlins, a book test with a dictionary, an interesting premise, some good and some not so good in this project that I want to put out to you. I've had questions about this as well in comments in the past, people asking me, is this good, is it not? So today is going to be finally the day I'm going to make a review for it. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Definitive. So what is Definitive? Definitive is essentially a book test routine with a dictionary where you have three spectators pick different words in different ways and then you reveal them. So for example, what you would do is you would have a spectator open up to a page in the dictionary. They would look at the top word on that page. They would pass the dictionary on to someone else. That person will look at the bottom word on that page. And then you would mentally guess the two words. Afterwards, you would just rip open any page in the dictionary without looking. You would just rip it out. You would ask the spectator to tear it in half again, in half. You'd have them go through a tearing procedure. So they have a bunch of bits of paper. They could then wash them, mix them on the table, pluck out any bit of paper they want, look at it, remember the word, place it back. They could even crumple the rest, throw it out, and then you'd mentally get that word. That's essentially what the routine is. Now, unfortunately, because of how this works and how the routine is constructed, I cannot do a performance for you, because if I were to show to the camera, the words and the pages, you would kind of understand some of the inner working. So I can't really do that because of the camera and because of no spectators, but I hope that explanation does it justice. And we're going to explain some other routines in a moment that you could do with the book. So knowing all of that, let's get into where do you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get? So you can buy this pretty much anywhere. It's distributed by Murphy's Magic. So I got mine at a local magic shop, but it is available at Penguin, at Vanishing Gang, at ALAKAZAM Magic, pretty much anywhere you want at a local magic shop or not. You could probably find this. Just take a look and you could probably find this if it interests you. It will set you back 55 US dollars, which is around 75 Canadian dollars. And what you get is a few things. One, you get this kind of sleeve that the book comes in. On the back is the tutorial. It's going to direct you to a Murphy's Magic link. And on that link, you're going to get a tutorial that spans almost 3 hours. So 3 hours with live performances in there, studio performances, demonstration, camera angles, everything that you need to know with Christopher Rawlins. And he explains all the details. There's so many routines, so many details that he gives you on this, how to handle it, how to get over the fear of performing this because of how it works, etc., etc. He covers everything for almost 3 hours. Then you also get these two bookmarks. These are not gimmick, they're just normal bookmarks, but they have some reveals on it, or they have some presentational hooks that you can do. For example, the way that I like to perform it is I just like to have someone just open the book and stick the bookmark anywhere, and then they would open the book at that page and they would look at certain words. That's how I like to do it if I were to do it. So that's, my choice. But again, that's up to you. So you get two of those, and then you also get the book. So this is the book. It looks very good. It looks like a real dictionary. There's like a barcode. There's links to the actual dictionary that you can use. So it is, and it feels like a dictionary. It has a title page, the words, the way it's printed, the paper, everything really looks like a dictionary. So you get this book. It is not hardback or anything. It is paperback, and it's kind of foldy, which is nice. But again, if you want to rip pages, you could do it. Personally, I don't like to rip pages because when I do book tests, I like to have a bunch of books just stacked up and then they just pick one. So personally, I don't like the ripping pages thing, but you can do it without. So yeah, this is the book, really well made. So that's everything that you get with your purchase. So having said that, let's get into difficulty. So what is the difficulty of this effect? This effect is super easy to perform. There's no slides, there's no memory work, there's no there's nothing like switching in, like with the pieces of paper, you don't have to switch in another page or anything like that. Everything is self-contained and super easy to do. There's even questions I've seen online where people are like, oh, can I really do this blindfolded? Will this work blindfolded? Yes, it will work. You could do this blindfolded, no issue, with no memory work. This is going to work for you. It is super, super, super easy to perform. So don't worry about that. It is very easy to perform. However, the only difficulty that you're going to get with this is because the way the book is gimmicked and the way the book works, it's going to require a bit of audience management. I don't want to give too much away, but you can't have, for example, a spectator go in and just choose a page like this, or go in at one page and then be like, okay, let me go to this page or whatever. You can't have a spectator flick. So it is a bit constrained in how it handles, of how the book handles, which means that you're going to need a bit of audience management. So if you want to do this blindfolded, you would do the second phase where you rip up the pages. You could do that blindfolded, no problem. Okay? But for the whole routine, I would suggest, at least for the start, do it without a blindfold. Make sure that everyone does what they're supposed to do, and you're going to be golden. Okay? So now moving on to practicality. So is this practical? First of all, as always, what is the carrying capacity? Well, you just have to carry around this book. That's it. So you're going to have to carry around this book. Of course, this means that this can't just be placed in a pocket or in a jeans pocket or whatever. You're going to need a bag, a carrying case, or something to carry this around with you in order to perform it. So yes, you're going to have to carry around this book, but that's pretty self-explanatory with any book test. But apart from that, you don't need anything else. Of course, depending how you want to reveal the words, if it's just by like mentally, or if you want to have like something to write on, so you can take some billets, or you can have like a notepad or whatever. That depends on you, but for itself, you just need the book. That's it. Even if you want to do something with these, what I do is I just plug them anywhere and I'm good to go. I just put them inside of the book and I have them with me. So that's in terms of carrying capacity. In terms of inspectability, is this inspectable? No, it is not inspectable at all. And when I mean at all, you cannot even have the spectator flick through the book. So that is where your biggest challenge is going to come from. This is going to be audience management and routine management and script writing, as to not have anyone flick through. I've performed this for family, and one person literally just opened it, looked at the word, and then was interested just in looking at the book. And yeah, they basically started like smirking because they clearly saw how this worked. So this is 0% inspectable, at like 0. Of course, you would want to have this not want to be inspected with your script, with your handling, and you can 100% achieve that. But if you're worried about that, or if you like a more laid back book test where you don't have to worry about them flicking through or seeing anything, this is not for you. This will need audience management 100%. In terms of angles, if performed correctly, there's 360, there's no angle issues. Again, if they don't flick through the pages, it could be a 360, no problem angle-wise whatsoever. In terms of reset, whether if you rip the page out, maybe you're gonna just want to clean out if you don't rip it perfectly, or maybe just gonna want to rip around it's hard to explain, but I think you understand. Like if you rip the book and there's some edges, you'd maybe want to just clean those edges before you perform again easily. But if not, if you don't perform the rip version, which I don't personally enjoy because I don't like ripping stuff from my books, then you don't need it. Instant reset. You're good to go. Next table, next table. In terms of repeating performances, you cannot really perform this twice for the same group. So contrary to other book tests, you cannot do that with this. If you were to perform from table to table to table, you would probably risk getting caught. So this cannot be repeated for the same audience, cannot be done from table to table. It's just for like a one-on-one or a parlor type scenario. And the last thing that we can mention about practicality regarding this is the fact of audience management. So I've mentioned that a bit up until now, but really make sure that you manage your audience well when performing with this book. So, having said all of that, where would you perform this? So, understanding all of those limitations, where would you perform this? So, this works really well in a close-up scenario. So, if someone comes at your house or you go to someone's house, like a small scenario, or if you do like at a table or in a parlor type show, this would work really well because it plays for a bigger routine, right? If you do this in parlor, you can have two people up on stage. Think of it, right? You do bang, bang, and then you invite someone else. You rip up the page, you do all the thing, you put your blindfold on, and you're like, okay, think of your word with the blindfold, and you write it on a big board. It could play really big for parlor and stage or cabaret or anything like that. This could play really, really well. This, in my opinion, doesn't play well for walk around. You can, of course, do it, but personally, as I said, you're probably going to get caught if you do this too many times at an event and people talk about it. In my opinion, people won't necessarily do that, but if that's something that worries you, this isn't something really that you're going to do table hopping, table to table to table. It's more of a showpiece. So for me, this works better in any scenario where you're doing a showpiece. So even if you do close up, if it's like at someone's house, perfect. If it's parlor, stage, anything like that, perfect. I just wouldn't take this with me and do it from table to table as you would do with other book tests. So understanding everything, what are the positives and negatives of definitive? Let's start with the negatives as always. What are the negatives of definitive? One of the negatives is that if you're like me and you don't like ripping up your props and ripping up the things that you pay, because this is not expensive and there's no refill. So if you rip this a lot, at some point you're gonna need to buy another $55 book, which adds up. So personally for me, I don't like ripping the page, and that makes it that the best routine that you can do with this, I can't really do it. If I were to do this like at a big show as a big piece, I would rip the page, but just casually, like I usually perform book tests because I don't really perform book tests on stage, I wouldn't necessarily rip it. So that removes kind of the best routine from it, but there are alternatives. Second, you need big audience management for this because the book is not inspectable at all. It cannot even be flicked through. A page cannot even be swiped through. Nothing of the sort. You cannot have this handled by the spectator wrongly whatsoever because you will expose the method. 4, you cannot do this from table to table to table or multiple times for the same people as you would with a normal book test, because not only will they understand how it works, but it simply cannot be done. It simply cannot be done if you don't want to expose the method. So yeah, so that limits a few things, which the last negative, which is 5, it limits where you can perform this in types of this area. So having said that, what are the positives? 1, the instructional video, as you would expect with Christopher Rawlins, is great. It's a great instructional video. 2, the book is really well made. It feels authentic. The number of routines and possibilities you get with this are great. There's a lot that you could do with this. In that regard, it's fun to perform, albeit a bit risky. So if you're trying to get out of your box and maybe try something a bit more bold, this could be for you. So having said all of that, would I recommend definitive and what would I rate it out of 10? So would I recommend definitive? I think if you were to ask me, do you recommend definitive over any other book tests? I would say no. Like that, in my opinion, I would say no. Especially with some of the new ones coming out. If you look at The End by Angelo Carbone, where you can literally just throw the book to someone, have them think of a word on that page and know it, you know, I wouldn't recommend this over that. If ever you look at the new one by Illusionist, I think it's called the Scarlet Book Test, I would recommend that over this. And if you look at all the Zanman book tests, I own like 3 of them. They're my favorite. I would recommend any of those over this. However, if you want to do a showman piece of a performance with a book test, so something that's going to be like 10 minutes long and really play it up like an incredible show of mentalism, then yes, I would recommend this if you want to rip the page. If you do not want to rip the page, I think just go for any other book test. You'll be happier than this. So I think it depends on that. No, I would not recommend this over any other book test, but I would recommend it over other book tests if you want to really do like an entire routine built up to an amazing reveal and climax. I think yes, I would recommend it in that regard. So what would I rate it out of 10? Personally, because I'm not really going to perform the ripping page one because I own so many book tests, that I'm so confident with, that I like just giving out and making it seem like it's a normal book. I think that really hinders my enjoyment of this. It's not a bad product, it's not a bad routine, but it's not for me. So I am giving this a 6.5 on 10. I do think it has its use, I do think it can play, but for me, it's not going to be one of the books that goes into one of my shows or into my carrying case. I have other books to do that I prefer. If ever I do decide to perform this in a other scenario, I'm gonna post it down below and say that I changed my mind. But as it stands right now, this is not a book test for me, but it could be for you. As always, my opinion is not the definitive one. There's plenty of other reviews out there that can tell you otherwise, and maybe this is going to be the perfect book test for you, so check that out. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you so much, and have a great one. Bye-bye.